Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning on Tell It All Tuesday on Unfiltered Vision News. And let's now get to our Kids Corner.
Money can buy happiness. Well, 6-year-old Ryan was about to learn that some things are richer than gold, like kindness and hard work. One bright morning, Ryan's father told him to visit their farmland outside the city. Ryan thought it would be boring, but he had no idea what he was about to discover. At the farm, Ryan met Taro, a kind farmer boy his age. Taro didn't have fancy clothes or toys, but his big smile made Ryan feel strangely happy. Taro showed Ryan how to water the plants and feed the animals. Ryan's soft hands got muddy, but for the first time he felt joy that money couldn't buy. At lunchtime, Ryan saw Taro sharing his small meal with a bird. Ryan realized that being rich wasn't about owning things, it was about sharing from the heart. Before leaving, Ryan gave Taro his smartwatch. Taro smiled and handed him a small plant, saying, "This will grow if you care for it like a friend." Back home, Ryan placed the plant on his window and whispered, "True riches grow when we share." From that day, Ryan's heart bloomed with kindness. True happiness doesn't come from what we own, but from what we give. Sharing makes hearts rich and turns small moments into treasures of kindness.
Yes, so remember to share because, as they say, sharing is caring. And with that, let's get into honoring God with our body. So, God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So, I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs and help me to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect my feet as I walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you're joining us here the first time on Unfiltered Vision News, that is a prayer that we say every morning to get our hearts set right for the day. We have a lot of news to get into because today is Tell It All Tuesday. And if you've been with me for a while, you know how I like to get into it. Good morning, Spud. Thank you so much for joining. And Minnesota Feds, thank you so much for reposting, streaming, joining us this morning. And Spud McKenzie says, Amen. Oh, my goodness. So again, this is Tell It All Tuesday. Look, I'm just going to preface it with that because we got some stuff to get into. So there were a few videos that I came across on X that I kind of put into my bookmarks. They might be trending, they might not be, but I try to at least tap into some of this. So before we get into talking about what's happening with the conflict, and it's closely going to be becoming a war here pretty soon if we do not take people out of here. Again, Congress hasn't given any money yet. we're teetering. We're teetering, and I'm like, okay, we need to go home. We need to come back home. But we'll see. Power struggles are what they are. So, with that, I wanted to get into some of these trending topics on X. So this one is actually from last week. It says, breaking, furious Minnesota residents are now demanding the impeachment and removal of a Democratic elected judge, Juan Hoyos, after he allowed one of the Somalians who stole $11 million in taxpayer funds to keep his passport while posting bond, which he then used to flee the country. Normally, when you post bond, you have to relinquish any and all passports, right? So you can't leave the country. So what did this dude do? He left. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? Take his passport. Just nuts. Okay, let's see what happened.
Our culture is we trust one another.
Prosecutors also charged Saeed with perjury, and his trial Monday was set to be the crowning moment in the state's long investigation. But according to multiple sources, he has instead successfully fled the country. How? He had no travel restrictions. At a bail hearing after he was charged, prosecutors wanted to set bail at $1 million, but Judge Juan Hoyos gave Saeed two options: a $50,000 bond where he gives up his passport, or a $150,000 bond with no conditions. Saeed opted for the higher amount, and he kept his passport.
Our culture is we trust one another.
Prosecutors also charged Saeed with perjury.
What you think he was gonna do? He still has the money. His assets haven't been frozen. And even with that, he was like, in our culture, he's not talking about the United States. He's talking about his culture. Somali. They trust one another. Yeah. It's just not a good look. It's just not a good look. Okay. So on to the next topic. So North Carolina hospitals have deployed these telepresence robots. These allow doctors to interact remotely with patients. A real human doctor is operating this remotely and speaking with patients. Yes, this is real. This is so dystopian, North Carolina. Okay, so how do you guys feel? Are you okay with this? Now, I've seen something similar to this in restaurants where you might have a human take your order, but the robot will deliver your food to your table. I didn't like it. I don't like it. I've experienced it twice, and I'm just like, you won't see me again as a customer. You're just not. I'm not doing that. If I go to a restaurant, I am purposely going to interact with other humans and to keep humans employed. Like those are my two things: keeping people employed and interaction. Because outside of that, I don't have to do it at all. I can just cook for myself. I can stay at home, right? What are we doing? But you're in a hospital, and this is going to be your doctor. That's how your doctor is going to see you. They don't even have to show up anymore. I'm not saying that they were really present when they were physically there either. They just come in, look at the chart, flip it, try to be as how should I say, nice as possible, good bedside manner, right? And then they would just leave. Sometimes they would talk to you, sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they just talk at you because, some of them have a God complex and they're just like, I'm smarter than you, whatever. Trust me. I've done battle with a few doctors in my time. But yeah, this is where they're at. And you're probably going to pay more for this because they have to, keep this all maintained and everything. So they're still going to be getting paid what they were getting paid or more. And they don't even have to be present. It's interesting. Next, this is great news. American Patriots are launching an online database to expose activist and traitor judges who go soft on criminals, resulting in victimizing more Americans. Currently covering blue, heavy orange County, Florida, then all of Florida, then all of America. So this is courtwatch.us. And I saw a post on this the other day. So he's just, going through the database and, where you can look up these different judges. But what it will do, I don't think a lot of these judges will get impeached because they'll be protected, which is crazy, but they should be. But what it will do is it will at least let the general public in the area know who's back out on the street, right? And who wasn't arrested, so they can at least keep themselves safe, right? Because judges they don't care. We lost this a long time ago. And this exposed the Federal Reserve believes they own us. Time to audit and destroy their monetary dictatorship. They print money, rig interest rates, and pay zero taxes. So the Federal Reserve is a rogue financial cartel printing money, rigging interest rates, and now pay zero taxes while Americans suffer under crushing inflation. Biden handed them total exemption from taxation, making them untouchable while you struggle to survive. This unelected banking mafia believes they own you. Let me see, it's about time to audit, expose, and tear their corrupt empire before it's too late. The Federal Reserve believes they own us. It's time to destroy the monetary dictatorship. Trump unleashes National Party to vote. Okay, so let's go back. I don't know. Let's see the explanation.
Bet you didn't know this. 12 U.S.C. 531, exemption from taxation under U.S. Code House.gov. What's it say? In effect October 1st, 2023.
Okay, now that was under the Biden administration. Just want to clear that up. That's why Biden was mentioned.
Exempt from taxation, Federal Reserve banks, including the capital stock and surplus therein, and the income derived therefrom, shall be exempt from federal, state, and local taxation. Ain't that a bitch? Bet you didn't know this.
Except taxes upon real estate. That was very interesting because they just had a building built, I guess, in DC, or they upgraded their building. So I guess they have to pay taxes on that. But they're exempt. Why would they need? See, that's the weird thing about the Federal Reserve, because first of all, everybody knows they're not federal. You know, news is out on that. We all figured that out. So you're not a federal agency. But why would they need to exempt you from taxation? While you basically are an intermediary controlling the money and how we spend it with the Treasury. Like it's a very weird entity that they are. So we'll see how long that lasts and how that goes. But those are some of the trending topics that I wanted to bring up with you guys this morning. So the next bit of news we're going to get into, and this was something that I kind of had on my mind, so I wanted to share it with you guys, and it's Agenda 2030. Now, I'm going to sneeze. I'm so sorry. It's so weird. I woke up this morning, fine. As soon as I get ready to start the show, nose is like, I'm like, stop that. I do not want to sneeze on air. Okay. It settled down. My goodness. Okay, here we go. All right. So it said, I said, why are the United Nations, WEF, IMF, and world leaders concerned about 2030? Because I keep hearing it here and there, like sporadically, even with the Promethean updates. I'm like, what is going on? So I had to ask Grok. I'm like, okay, well, what is this? So the main reason the United Nations, World Economic Forum, WEF, IMF, and many world leaders focus intensely on 2030 is the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, a set of 17 sustainable development goals, SDGs. So when you hear that, that's the Sustainable Development Goals, and 169 targets adopted unanimously by UN member states in 2015. So this goes back, right? It's about 11 years, roughly. So these include ending poverty, hunger, achieving gender equality. Why does that always show up? What are we talking about? Oh, well, they're just talking about equality in men and women. Are they really? We'll see. Ensuring clean energy and climate action, sustainable cities, and more. So the deadline is 2030 because they're pushing towards it. And I'm like, what is going on? Now, multiple recent official assessments as of 2025 show the world is severely off track. Okay, so that means God's intervened, right? Humans have woken up and they're like, we're not doing any of this. So that's why they're off track. That's just my assumption, right? So only about 17 to 18% of the SDGs or their targets are on pace to be met by 2030, roughly half are progressing too slowly, and nearly 20% have actually regressed since 2015, which is great because nobody's elected the UN, right? I didn't vote for this, right? You know what I'm saying? I didn't vote for SDGs. It's none of my business. You don't run our country, so what are you doing, right? So the key problem areas include hunger, poverty, reduction, biodiversity, okay, peace, and climate action. Factors cited include conflicts, the lingering effects of COVID-19, underinvestment, rising debt, geopolitical tensions, and economic shocks. So the UN's position, the UN itself owns the 2030 agenda. They own it. That's fine. I know we're a part of the UN, right? We're one of the largest members, we're one of the founding members of the UN. But again, the UN itself isn't something that should dictate what happens here in the United States. I don't like the UN because they've become this entity that thinks they can tell everybody else what to do. They are supposed to be there to work together among nations and keep peace. The problem is there's nothing to fight about, right? So they're like, okay, well, let's just dominate the world and create a whole different, you know, level of supremacy over all the humans, and we'll be in charge over everybody, and we'll just tell everybody else what to do. Even if, you know, they have government elected officials, we'll just tell them what to do as well. It's crazy. So Secretary General Antonio Guterres and annual SDG progress reports describe the situation as woefully off track and alarmingly off track. Without major acceleration, they warn of reversed development gains, increased inequality, and failure to protect the planet. The agenda is framed as a universal plan for people, planet, and prosperity, but progress has been uneven, especially in developing countries, conflict zones, and small island states. So the WEF's involvement, the WEF strongly supports the SDGs and has tied its own initiatives, such as the Great Reset. Now, that was brought up yesterday in the Promethean update, right? Launched in 2020 during COVID to accelerating them. You will own nothing and be happy. Like, that's the Great Reset, y'all. Really. But the great part is it's been put off. Thank goodness. So the WEF reports and events frequently reference 2030 in the context of climate technology, fourth industrial revolution, economic transformation, and global risk. The Global Risk Report highlight compounding threats by 2030 to 2036, including extreme weather, economic fragmentation, geopolitical confrontation, AI disruption, and infrastructure strain. Interesting how they knew all of that in 2020. And that's pretty much where we're at right now, which is weird. No, it's not weird. They had a plan. So they see 2030 as a pivotal year for reshaping capitalism towards stakeholder models that address sustainability and inequality. There's not going to be any sustainability, and there's going to be great inequality because it's going to be the rich and the poor, and that's it. No middle class. You're either rich or you're poor. You can either afford to survive or not. It will be like the Hunger Games. It will be Pan Am and the rest of us in districts. That's just my opinion. So IMF's economic warnings. The IMF integrates SDG support into its work on financial stability, growth, and debt. It has repeatedly warned that achieving the goals is increasingly unlikely due to massive financing gaps, especially in low-income countries. High public debt, slowing medium-term global growth, projected at its weakest pace in decades, and structural issues like productivity, stagnation, and demographic shifts. Without bold policy changes, the IMF sees risk of a lost decade of growth through 2030, macroeconomic instability, and widened inequality. So that means humans are doing better than they want them to do. They still want to drive everybody into a form of debt slavery. This is what that translates to me. They're like, well, everybody's not making as much money as they should, but you still can't own anybody, which is what you want. It's crazy. So, world leaders in broader context, most world leaders endorsed the SDGs and the Paris Climate Agreement. Now, the Paris Climate Agreement is something that Trump got us out of when he was in office the first time. Then Biden put us back in it, and then Trump took us out of it again because we're the only ones paying for this. Again, we're the only ones paying for lunch, which sets critical 2030 emissions milestones to limit warming to 1.5 to 2.6 degrees Celsius. Climate science, IPCC, and UNEP states that global greenhouse gas emissions must fall sharply by 2030, around 28 to 42% from current trajectories, to avoid irreversible damage. Leaders also reference WEF-style global risk assessments, which flag economic conflicts, supply chain breakdowns, and technological upheaval as near-term threats that intensify by 2030. Now, here's my thing with the climate, and I have a video that I'll play following this. My only issue with that is we are carbon-based life forms. And yeah, until we started the industrial boom where we were tearing down the trees, building up manufacturing plants, and not really looking at, hey, the runoff from what we're creating, is it going to damage forestry? Is it going to damage the water? What is the full life cycle? Because people were not focused on that and they were just focused on making money. Okay, I can see where some of this stuff is an issue, but some of this stuff is made up and they can't even prove it, right? So they're limiting these warnings by saying, no, we have to lower this, we have to lower this. No, their idea was they just want to kill off people. Okay, everybody forgets about the Georgia Guidestones that were conveniently blown up, saying that they really just want 500 million people across the globe. Huh? You want less than 1 billion people across the globe? Right now, I'm sure there's what, 13 billion across the globe, something crazy like that. We have a lot of humans, okay? We're a lot of people. And they want to knock it down to less than 1 billion. Yeah. What's her name? Jane Goodall. I think she's still alive. She was talking about how, yeah, we need fewer people on the planet. You can just type it in. Who wants fewer people on the planet? That's what this is about. This whole climate change thing. We need less people so there's more resources. Yeah, we're considered useless eaters if you're not a part of the 1%. I'm just saying. That's their mindset. So in short, the concern is not mysterious. It's that self-imposed, ambitious global targets for development, climate, and economic stability are slipping away fast. Official statements frame this as an urgent call for more investment, cooperation, and policy shifts. Yeah, see, they need all these countries in alignment with what they're doing so everything falls in place. And the United States has been fighting against this. And there have been other countries fighting against it as well, even though they're in the UN. They're like, we're not doing this to our people. Even the representatives there, when they come back home and they're like, hey, this is what we're going to do at the UN. They're like, no, we're not doing any of that. What is wrong with you? Stop it. So critics, including some in the results, argue the agenda represents unrealistic central planning, potential sovereignty erosion, and overreach, and that external shocks have exposed its limitations. Yeah. So the 2030 date is a hard deadline baked into its frameworks, which is why reports, summits, and forecasts keep circling back to it. If targets are missed, the organizations warn of cascading crises in poverty, food security, climate extremes, and global stability. And the reason why I've even brought any of this up is because there was a Bilderberg meeting that ended last weekend, I guess Friday or Saturday last weekend. And Bilderberg, similar to Davos, is where, the people that are owners of large organizations and different things, they all get together and talk about what we should do for the world. What should we do to help all of these people out here on the planet, because we know better. Yeah, that's their warped mindset, that they know better for us. They know better than the world leaders. They know better than the elected officials. They know better than human beings themselves, because they're the elite. They're psychopaths, okay, with too much money and too much time on their hands. And they need to stop being bored about killing other people. It's disgusting. That is who they are. They don't care about people that are impoverished. They want to keep them impoverished. Because you know what? If they didn't, they would take the money that they have and they would build up their communities. They would probably stop kidnapping people, allegedly, raping people, allegedly, right? They would make all of that go away. Haiti wouldn't look like Haiti. Haiti would look like Alpharetta, Georgia. And it would be easy to do because billions of dollars have already been sent there. Where's the money? Yeah, it's stuff like that. It's stuff like that. So let's check out one video from a Bandot video that I pulled regarding Bilderberg. I'm not going to play the whole video in all these. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to play enough of it to give you an idea of what's going on in these meetings that, again, these are unelected officials. These are just people that, it's almost like a social club. Think of Bilderberg as a country club. You know how George Carlin liked to say, it's a big club and we're not in it? Bilderberg is that. That's what that is.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. It is the final day here at the Bilderberg conference in Washington, D.C. This thing is ending just as quick as it began, where this confab of some of the world's most powerful and influential people is coming to an end. We're talking about heads of media, heads of finance, military men, AI tech overlords, politicians and royalty have been meeting here behind these closed doors. And interestingly, they've recently put up a big black curtain on the other side of these doors. So we can't see who's coming or going, because I managed to find this spot early on here where I can be perched up and get a view over the fence here and to see who's coming and going. But they want that blacked out now, and that speaks a lot. You know, it speaks volumes as to how much they don't want to be seen. Of course, this meeting now, they publish the official participants list and they publish the official agenda. But that's only because we forced their hand at that. They've essentially had to switch tactics to operating just through secrecy in plain sight now. And, 20 years ago when I started covering this, I would be laughed at and called a conspiracy theorist for even suggesting that these types of meetings were taking place. And now it's just openly discussed and common knowledge that, oh yeah, this is what some of the world's most powerful and influential people do. They meet in secret behind these locked doors and they discuss the direction that they want to take the world. So again,
yes. So he goes on in this video to just show some of the people that were attending the meeting. But what I wanted to show you is the website. And I've reviewed this before on my show. But here is the Bilderberg meetings, right? And here's some of the participants that went. And this was April 9th through the 12th. Who's at the very top? Anybody recognize that name? Yeah, that's Miss Stacey Abrams. She ran for governor here in the state of Georgia. And she was there on behalf of Sage Works Production that she's the CEO of. What are you doing at Davos? Yeah, And this is why we need to never put her in a political position, ever, and monitor her as well, and everybody else on this list. Oh, yeah, I got more to tell y'all. Or there's more in some of these other videos I got coming. But yeah, at the very top of the list. Interestingly enough, Elon Musk is not on this list. Governor Kemp is not on this list. I was looking for some other people, names that I would recognize. I did not see anyone else that I recognized on this list that were politicians or famous, let's say, owners or organizational owners. But I'm sure, yeah. So I'm just scrolling through so you guys can see, like, yeah, they are here. And it's out in the open, right? So even though you didn't see them walking around, they're still here on the list. Broad daylight. You can look this up, anybody. Type in Bilderberg meetings or just Bilderberg, and you can pull up their website and look into any of these individuals here that are on this list. And there's, like I said, there's a few of them from the United States, like Jason Smith. He's a member of Congress. I'm not sure where. Brad Smith, he's the vice chair and president of Microsoft. So Microsoft was present. Let's see, chief policy officer for Coinbase, Briar Shirzad. Terry Sewell, okay, member of Congress. Yeah, so we have some of our members of Congress there just hanging out at Bilderberg. What are y'all doing? But that's that. Look, here we are. So the 72nd Bilderberg meeting to take place, April 9th through the 12th in Washington, D.C. So that's where the meeting was. It was in D.C. Okay. And diverse group of political leaders and experts from industry, finance, academia, and media have been invited. And you've already seen the participant list. So here are some of the topics that were discussed this year. So AI, Arctic security, China, digital finance, energy diversification, Europe, global trade, the Middle East, Russia, transatlantic defense, industrial relationship, Ukraine, USA, future of warfare, and the West. You know who I didn't see was on this list? Oh, our president is not on the list. How a meeting gonna happen in your town? How's this meeting gonna happen in the backyard and you're not invited? Okay. I'm just saying. Do we see Jared Kushner on there? He might have been out of town. He might have been doing some stuff. Let's see, Kushner. Nope, he's not invited because it's all alphabetized. JD Vance. Yeah, Vance with a V. Yeah, he wasn't invited either. He was out of town, doing some negotiations or stuff. So he wasn't invited. But yeah, this is what was going on in the backyard in DC. President not invited. But we're discussed. We're not invited. That's trash. In my opinion. And thank you. Let me see. Lunchbox, 8 billion people worldwide. Thank you so much for looking that up. I appreciate you. And Uncle Coolwater says, can you spell the name of that meeting? Oh, Bilderberg, right here. It is Bilderberg, Bilderberg. But it's not build the way we would spell build, right? Build. It's BILDERBERG. Yeah, Bilderberg, 72nd meeting. And Cajun Lady says, more like diverse creatures. Yes. And good morning, Cajun Lady. Thank you so much for joining us. And Sincerely Lawless, thank you so much for joining us here this morning and reposting the stream. Y'all, it is wild. Again, How are you going to have a meeting in DC and president's not invited? But we're discussed. We're on the menu. And why is Stacey Abrams there? Like, she was at Davos. She's Bilderberg. How did they own you like that? That's my question. It's just gross. Again, there's some things to me that are just gross and some things you shouldn't be a part of, because why are you a part of it? Because these are not helpful people. These are hurtful people. But let's continue. I got another video on it to actually talk about another meeting that happened alongside this Bilderberg meeting.
Next news, breaking news.
They're meeting right now in Washington, D.C. in secret. The most powerful unelected humans on planet Earth have called an emergency Bilderberg conference, something that has not happened in 33 years, and the mainstream media is giving it zero coverage. So ask yourself why. These are the shadow architects who decide your future before you even know there's a decision to make. Presidents get elected. These people get obeyed. And right now, they're rattled. Something has them so scared and so desperate and so cornered that they broke a 3-decade precedent to assemble in a panic. We have the leaked participant list to prove it. See, this isn't some academic policy discussion happening in a fancy hotel. This is about your life. This is about your money. This is about your freedom. When the Bilderberg group meets, they're not debating, they're deciding. The European Union, that was hatched in the Bilderberg meetings. Countries that had their own currencies for thousands of years surrendered them because of decisions made in rooms just like this. Now look at their agenda. AI, digital finance, future of warfare. Translation, they're deciding who controls your money when cash goes digital. They're deciding how artificial intelligence will monitor, track, and manage populations. They're deciding which wars get funded and which nations get destabilized. And you weren't invited to vote on any of it. Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's in that room, and so is Peter Thiel. So is Satya Nadella from Microsoft. The King and Queen of Netherlands, prime ministers from Denmark and Greece and Canada, NATO's Secretary General, the heads of the IMF and the European Central Bank. These aren't people who ask for permission. They give orders. And right now, they're writing the script for the next decade of your life. Speaking of global power players making moves behind closed doors, there is something happening right now that could actually work in your favor for once. This breaking news from the White House: they just announced over $30 billion to secure America's critical mineral supply chain. And they named a specific Alaskan project as a key strategic asset for U.S. mineral independence. You see, I've been to the Vizsla copper drilling site myself. I've seen it with my own eyes. And what's happening right now is bigger than most people realize. See, President Trump just unveiled Project Vault, a $12 billion strategic minerals reserve designed to stockpile essential resources and keep America from being dependent on China for the minerals that power everything, from military equipment to electric vehicles. While the globalists at Bilderberg scheme to control digital finance and future warfare, the Trump administration is making sure America controls the resources that make both possible. You see, this is the kind of strategic move that puts America first. Now, Vizsla Copper, make note of this, they trade in the United States under VCUFF and in Canada as VCUV. Write that down, it's on the screen. And check the exclusive briefing that's linked below to see why this matters now more than ever. We thank them for supporting this program. Now let's get back to what's really happening inside that hotel in Washington, D.C., because here's what makes this even more revealing. Dan Dix from Press for Truth, he's on the ground right now. He says he's one of the only 2 journalists covering this entire event. Now let that sink in. The most powerful people on earth are gathered blocks from the White House, and the corporate media has completely blacked it out. They've got massive green screens blocking the view, tinted windows on every car, security everywhere. And the people who claim to be journalists, they're not covering the story. They're inside the meeting receiving their marching orders. So wait until you see who got caught sneaking out. But first, let's go to Dan Dix Press for Truth. He's on the ground right now. We've been tracking his X account. Here he is, day 2 of the 2026 Bilderberg Conference. It's underway. And considering this appears to be an emergency April meeting, hasn't happened in 33 years, I think the implications are huge. Let's listen to his on-the-ground report from outside of Salem.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. It is now day 2 of the annual Bilderberg meeting here in Washington, D.C. Today is typically the day where the real bulk of the meeting takes place. The real meat and potatoes are discussed about their next phase of the plan moving forward. So I'm going to be here all day to document who's here and get a better idea of what sort of things they may actually be discussing. Now, a lot of people are probably not aware that it's the Bilderberg group who's responsible for major world-shaping events. One example is the European Union. That was hashed out by the Bilderberg group. That was their idea, which came to fruition. This concept of all these countries in Europe giving up their national sovereignty, and many of them relinquishing their own currency. Some of them who've had them for thousands of years gave that up in favor of the euro. And this was an idea that was hashed out by Bilderberg, where the inner circle of the inner circle, as I like to call them, managed to project this idea to the rest of the delegates, and then it became a reality, because these are some of the most powerful and influential people we're dealing with here. You may also not be aware that it was the Bilderberg group who, shortly after 9/11, hashed a plan to enter the Middle East, go into Iraq and Afghanistan, and it was at those early meetings when they told the delegates that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And of course, in attendance, there were some of the world's biggest media outlets, there were some of the world's biggest war hawks, and they took it in, hook, line, and sinker. And they kind of got this idea out into the minds of the masses, and it was able to happen. Now, they believed it full-heartedly. That's the only way that this thing can work. It's not like everybody who attends these meetings are in on some nefarious plan or agenda or even aware of the idea of the fact that these guys are trying to create an eventual one world global government. There is an inner circle inside the inner circle. They hash out the plan, and then they disseminate this idea to the large body of delegates who believe it, and then they go out and, like a ripple effect, it spreads out across all of society, and boom, just like that, they were able to invade, the Middle East based on this lie that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And obviously they have a lot of other countries on the chopping block, including Iran. And so now it begs the question, when we have major media outlets in here again, we have like the Secretary of War, we have the Secretary General of NATO, who are now meeting in this, what seems to be an emergency April meeting in the midst of Donald Trump's epic fury. It really makes you wonder what's on the actual agenda. What are they planning as the next phase in this plan for an eventual new world order? So I'm going to be here for obviously the duration of the event. And today I hope to maybe capture some people who are not necessarily on the official list. That way you can kind of get a better idea of what they want to convince these people of moving forward. Because as I said, it's an inner circle within the inner circle. These are the guys who hashed the plan. They put it into the minds of the delegates who are here, 120 to 150 people on average. That idea then permeates all throughout society, and boom, their plan comes to fruition. So stick with me, guys. This is potentially one of the most important Bilderbergs that we've seen in many, many years. This is my 20th year of covering Bilderberg, and I think this one is potentially going to be huge with major implications.
Dan Dix on the ground there, exposing the architects behind the world-altering decisions. Now here's the secretive arrivals that he captured as well.
Hey there, guys. Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. I'm here right out front of the Bilderberg Hotel. This is actually the side where all the cars are pulling in and out. As you can see, they got the huge green screen to block the view of Me and Josh, the only other journalist here covering Bilderberg. It's just the two of us at this point. And the cars are essentially rolling in right here. Here we got one right here. Let's see who we got here. Sometimes the windows are pretty tinted, makes it difficult to see who we have.
And my thing is, if there's nothing wrong with this, why are y'all so secretive? I mean, technically they're out in the open, right? They got the website. We can see the names of the people who that we know are on this list or attending. I didn't see Pete Hegseth's name on that list. Sorry. I didn't see him on the list. Secretary of War, Mr. Hegseth, because that that's who he is. He's not on the list. He's not. But apparently he was there. So let's continue.
But still, we very well may get a good chance to identify some of these people and potentially clear up any discrepancies from anybody who may be in attendance here and who are not on the official participants list. Because if you've been watching my coverage for a number of years here, you'll know that that's exactly what happens here sometimes. There are some high-profile people who aren't officially publicized to be here, and then they are here. So we're going to be here for the remainder of the day, and we'll see who we can capture heading in to the Bilderberg Hotel here in Washington, D.C.
After witnessing the clandestine arrivals, now with a full list, here we have participant list has been leaked. Washington, D.C. Co-chairs, President Institut Montaigne, Henri de Castries of France, Marie Jose Kravis of the USA, from the Museum of Modern Art, Stacey Abrams, oh my goodness, Sageworks Productions, Marco Oliveira and Applebaum from The Atlantic, Murray Auchincloss from Great Britain, Jose Manuel Barrasso. We have Valerie Budson from France, Carolyn Berg, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent of the United States, International Energy Agency Executive Director Faith Birol, Harold Boll of Belgium, the CEO of Sofina, Peter Bosek Borge Brende of Norway, the President and CEO of the World Economic Forum. How nice. Helen Budliger, State Secretary for Economic Affairs, Roland Bush, President and CEO of Siemens, Nadia Calvino, President of the European Investment Bank, Aro Quintel, the Chair of the Normit Group. Let's see if we can get a better shot here. Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada, member of the House of Lords, Camilla Cavendish of Great Britain, Minister of Public Expenditure for Infrastructure of Ireland, Jack Chambers, Francois-Philippe Champagne, Minister of Finance and National Revenue of Canada, Jeppe Christensen, Patrick Coulson, Jack Clark. The list goes on and on. This is apparently a confidential list, but that's only part of it. This is actually 4 pages. And you can see here even more. I mean, the list goes on and on. Let me see if I can just pop any names here that just come out at me. What I'll do for you guys, I'll repost this on my X account if you want to see it, or you can just go to Dan Dix on X and you can see it directly. But the list, Mark Rutte of the Secretary General of NATO, Eric Schmidt. Remember him, right? Let's see here. Who else is here? Peter Thiel. He's on the list. So I'm going to go ahead and repost this right now. You can find this right there on Next News Network's X account. Make sure you follow Dan Dix as well if you have.
Yeah, and I will definitely give you guys the link so you watch the rest of this video. Now, this next video I want to get into, this is Alex Jones talking about the Bilderberg Group in 2009. And the reason why I wanted to play it is because some of the things that he was saying back then have actually come to fruition now.
Up in Canada, up in Montreal, and he found out there was a conference called the New World Order, and he sent us the documents for it. They put out press releases, and I was familiar with the group. I'd read about it in SPP documents that we'd gotten through FOIA acts. The International Economic Forum of the Americas, Conference of Montreal, Adapting to a New World Order, 15th Annual Conference, Hilton, Montreal, Bonaventure Hotel, 8 to the 11th. So this ran through Thursday, ended Friday. Officially ended Thursday, but some still were there Friday. And just an amazing videos that he's posted. We've linked to him up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, the police protecting it. But really that they put out this program. This is exactly what we say the Bilderberg Group's covering, because we've gotten some of their minutes, stolen them, and they've also publicly released some now because they're in everybody's face. And it calls for a global government, global governance, how to have the central banks take over. And so I thought we'd have him on about that. But also we only had him on twice. Haven't had him on from Thursday or Friday. What happened then? So to give us a final recap of this key meeting. Remember, though, National News wrote several more stories over the weekend saying we're insane. Bilderberg exists, but they don't want world government. Yeah, and birds don't fly and fish don't swim and politicians don't lie either, right? Let's go to Sam LeBrier. Sam, good to have you here with us, my friend.
Hi, Alex. Good to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, Sam. Okay, recap the key of what was being covered there, who you saw, and all the new big developments that unfolded.
Well, one big thing that we learned about the conference is that it used to be done by invitation only, exactly like the Bilderberg meetings. And in the last few years, they've opened it up to the public more. You're able to buy your way in now, and apparently they're going to release all the text of all the speeches that were given on their own website because there was pressure from the public that this is too secret of a meeting and what's going on.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, they've decided hiding and saying Bilderberg and CFR didn't exist, as they did for decades, blew up in their face. So now they're going, yeah, there's world government, but it's loving. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're still waiting to see those documents on the website, and we'll let you know. We'll keep in touch about that. They're still not up. The big thing on Wednesday was Madeleine Albright's speech, which was called The Americas and the New World Order. Now, when we were interviewing people that were coming out and asked them what she talked about, a lot of them said her speech was actually very boring, and she didn't talk about anything in particular. However, what we realized talking to a lot of these people that were coming out is if you think of the New World Order like a pyramid, and you got Rockefeller and Kissinger at the top, these are probably a few layers down in the pyramid.
This is a regional thing just to co-opt and to make the locals feel important and to make them feel important and identify resistors. So it's an intelligence gathering operation with all the phones tapped in the hotel, everything NSA, Global Run, GSGQ. Go ahead.
Right, exactly. It's basically propagandizing the local elites to get them on board with the agenda. So a lot of the people that we interviewed, they don't have really a concept of the New World Order, what's really going on. In fact, we talked to some, it's up on YouTube, who were actually friends with key Bilderbergers in the city, and they didn't even know that Bilderberg existed.
Yeah, for those that don't know, a local top banker in town comes out. It's on video. You're talking to him in French, but you have a translation there for those in the who don't speak French. And the issue is you see a top Bilderberg group member stop, wave at him and say, don't talk too much to those guys, and then drive off. And then he said, yeah, I was inside. There's no global government. You're just, going after Ghost. Though I watched his body language, I think he was being deceptive. Go ahead.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, I was there interviewing him, and if he was lying, he's a very good liar, because we were convinced that he had never heard of Bilderberg. And
No, he was being arrogant. Well, let me just tell you, I'm a pretty good judge of people now after years of doing this. He had an arrogant, false aplomb on, and yes, he was BSing you in my opinion, but go ahead.
Well, regardless, so there was quite a few people who came out and told us that Madeleine Albright's speech was about nothing. When we pushed on some people, she said that she talked more about multilateralism and using the UN a lot more. And so it could be that if you knew what to listen for, there actually were important things in her speech, and just a lot of people didn't know what to listen for. We're not sure yet. We're hoping that they honor their promise and put up the full text.
Well, we know what was important. What they put out as their press release on their own website, that admits global government right there.
Yeah, towards.
Yeah. So Alex was talking about this back in 2009. Okay. 2009. My goodness. So I wanted to pull back up. I put the video through Grok talking about the Bilderberg meeting. And it says there are multiple reports and footage from journalists on site, Dan Dix, showing activity at the Salamander Hotel in D.C. with arrivals of high-profile figures matching the described list. Bilderberg meetings are private by design and often attract limited mainstream coverage until after the fact. Anybody heard about it? I mean, I'm covering it, right? Alex Jones is covering it. This other person that I brought up, his video, he's covering it, but who else? CNN, Fox? Oh, because, see, your people are in that meeting. CNN, Fox. So you're not going to cover it, right? Because you don't want the people with tinfoil hats on saying, hey, part of a new world order, but this is what y'all want. This is what you talked about. I said, so you can give more insight to the meeting and how it will affect the American people. So the Bilderberg Group itself released a press release statement confirming the event. It's their standard annual private conference since 1954, designed solely to foster informal dialogue between Europe and North America. See, they always want to say, well, yeah, we're just having a meeting. About what? What are you having a meeting about? Like, when y'all get together, why is there a need for you to be? And so when people talk about the deep state and they talk about these unelected officials and they talk about the secret government that nobody knows about, these are the people, because it's right in your face. But if you say that, everybody's like, well, you're just crazy. They're not doing that. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So, Stacey Abrams, you are scorched earth, scorched. And I guess you're there because you're supposedly the black diplomat. You're the token, right? And you're supposed to come back and tell everybody that, hey, everything's great. Nothing's wrong. Scorched earth. Anything that comes out of your mouth is a complete lie. And you have no standing ever. Okay? You're done. Now, a lot of people might say, well, we need people in these meetings so we know what's going on. Okay, fine. Death and destruction are what's going on in these meetings. Is there anything else we need to know? Whenever these people meet together, it is death and destruction. And these were their topics. Okay? So U.S. government officials include Douglas Bargum. He's the Secretary of the Interior. Daniel Driscoll, he's the Secretary of the Army. Jason Greer, he's the U.S. Trade Representative. Michael Kratos, he's the Director of the White House Office of Science and Technology. And Samuel Paparo, he's the Commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. Now, he did mention Scott Bessent, but I didn't see Scott's name come up in this, but apparently he was on that list. So that was the other confidential release list, right? Because, like I said, we knew about Stacey Abrams, and she was a policy figure, I guess. Alex Karp of Palantir, okay, one of the tech bros. Albert Bourla, he's the chief CEO of Pfizer. This is the same guy who was like, yeah, even if they find it, they're not going to say anything. He knows about all the stuff that's in. He's the same guy a couple years ago that was like, yeah, one day you'll just take a pill and it will let your doctor know if you've been taking the medications that have been prescribed to you. Yeah, that guy. Eric Schmidt, he was a former Google CEO. Mira Morishi, excuse me, CEO Thinking Machines Lab. Sorry about that, you guys. Jack Clark of Anthropic, and Patrick Collision, CEO of Stripe. That's the payment system. International heavyweights, the NATO secretary, General Mark Rutte, Dutch Prime Minister Rob Jettijn, King and Queen of the Netherlands, right? Various prime ministers, central bankers, and defense officials. They were all in DC last week. Yeah. So directly, almost certainly nothing immediate or traceable. Bilderberg produces no public output, no communiques, and no binding agreements. It's elite networking and private brainstorming, not a shadow government or decision-making body. Yeah, they are. Because there are people in that room that have access to other people that make decisions. If somebody's the Secretary of Interior, that they're a decision maker. Period. Why are you there? But I guess maybe you need to be in the room so you can counter what the other evil people want to bring upon us. Like I started this out with Agenda 2030. These are the people a part of that. They want to see Agenda 2030 played out. Okay. So discussions on AI, digital finance, and future of warfare could shape how U.S. regulators approach tech innovation, data privacy, and AI safety rules, because they've been talking about, we need to keep the young people safe. But in keeping the young people safe, they're going to corral everybody else. And that's where we're going to have more scrutiny, right? And more regulations on our freedoms on the internet than we have now. Now, the next place I wanted to go was talking about renewable energy. And this kind of plays into Bilderberg, the UN, the New World Agenda, and Agenda 2030, and where they're trying to go. But like I said, when I started this off, and I started with Agenda 2030, and it's like, well, a lot of it's been thwarted. A lot of it's been thwarted because it doesn't work. In their heads, hypothetically, it's like, this should work. But in theory, which is carried out, it's not working.
Environmental disaster is looming, thanks to so-called renewable energy sources. Hello, I'm Steve Forbes, and this is What's Ahead, where you get the insights you need to better navigate these turbulent times. The massive push in this century for alternatives to fossil fuels, mainly windmills and solar panels, has been one of the greatest follies in human history. The cost of these alleged renewables in the last 25 years exceeds $10 trillion, and the results politically and economically have been appalling. The money spent and the regulations imposed have wreaked havoc on European economies. German and British energy costs, for instance, are 2 to 3 times those of the U.S. These artificially imposed burdens are a key factor for the miserable growth rates in the EU. Stagnant economies have fueled the ominous rise of extremist political parties in Germany and elsewhere. The Iran war has graphically exposed how ludicrous this whole renewal push has been. Despite all those solar panels and turbines, global oil use has risen by almost a third, and per capita consumption has remained about the same since the turn of the 21st century. Mark Mills, an incisive energy expert and technologist, recently observed, quote, The world is more dependent on oil now than when the grand and expensive energy transition experiment began, end quote. Ponder for a moment the immense opportunity costs this folly has imposed. Imagine if those trillions of dollars had gone into new products, new services, new medical devices, new cures for diseases, and of course, more oil and gas production, and the development of nuclear power, which is the ultimate clean energy source. Thankfully, Uncle Sam never bought into this foolishness on the scale so many other nations did. Now, another cost of this foolishness will be coming due and can be summed up in the title of a report from the National Center for Energy Analytics, the NCEA, a nonprofit founded and headed by Mark Mills. Quote, "Who pays when wind turbines and solar panels wear out? A hidden energy liability." What has largely been ignored with these renewables is they aren't immortal and will need to be replaced. That's easier said than done, and the environmental implications are not pleasant. The foundation of a typical wind turbine is deep, as much as 30 feet. Each turbine is encased in 2,500 tons of reinforced concrete. Imagine trying to deal with that. Among other challenges are those blades made up of unrecyclable plastic. In fact, a couple of typical wind farms have more unrecyclable plastics than all the plastic straws and plastic cups in the world put together. Typically, governments have been ostriches with heads in the sand concerning this. With closed coal mines and shut down oil and gas drilling sites, governments have some form of decommissioning requirements. To find out the state of things in the U.S., the NCEA brought on Curtis Shube, Executive Director of the Council to Modernize Governments, to conduct a survey of the states to see what rules and regulations each one of them has on the books concerning the decommissioning of wind and solar facilities. Grades were given. No surprise, 2/3 of the states flunked. This is a sharp contrast with the processes most states have involving fossil fuel facilities. Another non-surprise, the federal government, which has jurisdiction for offshore wind installations, gets a failing grade as well. Cleaning up worn-out renewable sites will also cost tens of billions of dollars. From start to finish, these renewables are not only not replacing fossil fuels, but are also turning out to have done no overall good for the environment. I'm Steve Forbes. Thanks for listening.
Okay. But when I read to you guys what they're trying to do with Agenda 2030, what kept coming up? We need to lower the carbon and we need to have more renewable energy. That's not working. It's never been working. But they've invested trillions of dollars and have brainwashed us. What are you doing? Because you don't care. Look, at the end of the day, they don't care. Now, I want to also, before we take a quick break, I want to touch on OPEC, because people are not talking about OPEC and how it's moving, how it works, right? Why hasn't anybody brought it up during this conflict at all? At all. So here's a quick video on what OPEC is.
OPEC is the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. It was formed in 1960 by 5 oil exporting countries and has grown to include 9 more nations. The reason? 1960 was a time of a globalizing oil market. Demand was growing, but oil-producing countries weren't the ones benefiting. Global production and price was controlled by 7 Western oil companies. That's where OPEC came in. Its goal was to give power back to the nations who had the oil the world desperately wanted. Their plan was to regulate supply and to manipulate prices. In other words, become a cartel. Member countries meet every 2 years to set production quotas. The lower the quotas, the higher the price for oil-consuming countries. In its early days, OPEC did not have a lot of influence on prices. But in 1973, OPEC introduced an oil embargo. The crude price quadrupled. Some countries were forced to ration gasoline. At the time, OPEC accounted for about half of global oil supply. OPEC lost some influence in the 1980s. High oil prices meant people were switching to alternative fuel, non-OPEC production increased, and a global recession saw demand for oil decrease. By 1986, the price crashed. Over the next 3 decades, the price of oil continued to fluctuate for a number of different reasons, despite OPEC's attempts to control it. OPEC's influence has dwindled. It now represents less than a third of the market share. Add to that the increase of non-OPEC nations to the oil market, like Canada and the US. Recently, OPEC said it would restrain output to boost prices. That would be the first production cut since 2008. But there are doubts that OPEC could even accomplish that.
Okay. Now that video was from about roughly 7 years ago. But again, the reason why I bring it up is because, yeah, even though they only represent a third, that's still influence. It's still influence. They're not completely gone. We're not completely independent of them here in the US. I'm really grateful that the Keystone Pipeline was reopened because it was opened during Trump's first administration, then Biden shut it down, which lost like 10,000 jobs or something like that. Well, Trump reopened it last year. This is why he keeps saying we're not as dependent on the oil that's going on over here in the Strait of Hormuz. And you wonder, like, why are we over there then? Why are we messing with these people? Because he's trying to make friends in a weird way. Anyway, he's trying to make friends. So now, going back to OPEC, it's a cartel. Now, we know how we deal with RICOs and cartels over in the United States. They break them up, right? Do they really? Or do they allow them? Well, let's see. They are major oil-producing nations that coordinates production levels to influence global oil supply and prices. Remember this. Since 1960, they've been doing it. So, how is OPEC and it's impacting current gas prices as of April? So, right now, global oil prices are elevated. Brent crude is at $103 to $113 per barrel as of mid-April. And U.S. regular gasoline averages around $14 to $4.59 per gallon nationally, near 3 to 4 year highs and roughly $1 higher than last year's average. So the geopolitical shock, the ongoing U.S.-Iran conflict has disrupted oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. This has created a massive supply shortfall. Estimates range from millions of barrels per day lost. Now, OPEC's response, they are gradually increasing production, a second month of modest hikes, right? 206,000 barrels per day starting in May, and drawn from earlier voluntary cuts. Earlier, they had raised quotas by 2.9 million BPD through 2025, but paused further increases in Q1 of 2026. So the net effect, these small increases act as a buffer against even sharper price spikes, but they're not big enough to offset the Middle East disruptions or strong spring travel demand. Crude oil makes up 50 to 60% of the price you pay at the pump. So high global oil prices, higher U.S. gas prices. That's where we're at. So, and we know we got to get these barrels of oil down. So regardless of domestic U.S. production, and that's the crazy part. So we could be producing everything that we need, but they still affect us because they're still on the petrodollar. Yeah. It's like, when are we need a win here. We need a win. So most drivers see the price on the sign and blame the obvious targets: presidents, oil companies, greed, or domestic policy. Because oil is a global commodity, U.S. production is high, but the price is still set on the world market. OPEC plus decisions and foreign wars move the needle far more than any single U.S. policy. So the mechanics, quotas, voluntary cuts, monthly meetings are technical and rarely explained in simple terms on the evening news. Media and politicians often focus on domestic angles, taxes, regulations, EVs, drilling permits, while downplaying the cartel's role. So a lot of this is all of those countries over there that Iran is messing with, and Israel. You saw Venezuela on the list. Now, Venezuela's technically been captured by the US because we have their president in our jail cell somewhere. And I think he's in Jersey, right? So cutting a deal with Venezuela, it's like, okay, is that going to help us? Not really, because the cartel, and they're admitted, they're just out in the open, just like, right? We will keep this going. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's the crazy part. So people feel powerless over distant decisions made in Vienna, Riyadh. So the story doesn't stick the same way as big oil is gouging us. The result, a lot of frustration gets aimed in the wrong places. The reality is that OPEC's supply tweaks combined with wars, demand swings, and refining capacity drive most of the volatility you see at the pump. So I was like, what can consumers do? So here's what consumers can realistically do right now. The U.S. gas prices hover around $4.12 to $4.25 nationally, nearly $1. Immediate driving habits. These can improve your fuel economy by 10 to 30% with lower zero cost slowdown, 5 miles. Every 5 miles over 50 miles costs you extra, roughly 24 cents. Avoid aggressively driving. No jackrabbit starts, hard braking, rapid acceleration. Cut idling. Turn off your engine if stopped more than 30 to 60 seconds. Idling wastes a quarter to half a gallon per hour. Keep tires properly inflated. Underinflated tires can reduce mileage by 3 to 6%. Remove excess weight and roof racks. Every 100 pounds can drop efficiency by 1%. Take off heavy cargo boxes when not needed. Combine trips and plan routes. Use apps like Gas Buddy or Waze to avoid rush hour and find the cheapest gas nearby. Reduce overall driving demand. Work from home, right? Carpool, combine errands, smart fuel purchasing. Fill up in the morning or evening when fuel is cooler. Use apps like Gas Buddy. Long-term moves. Maintain your vehicle. Consider fuel-efficient options, hybrids, EVs, which I wouldn't recommend that because guess what? Electricity runs off of coal, fossil fuels. So OPEC is gradually adding a small amount of production, 206 barrels per day, but geopolitical issues in the Strait of Hormuz are still dominating. Individual actions won't move global prices much, but they directly lower your personal costs and build resilience. So yes, some of our daily habits can help, right? But overall, this cartel, it is what it is. So we need more independence here in the United States. But again, even if we're more independent, they still can jack up the prices of the barrels of oil, even if it's not necessary. And it's to maintain control. So this whole Strait of Hormuz thing, it's bigger than just the ships. I just want to let everybody know that. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to get into some more of this news on Tell It All Tuesday. So thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And we will see you on the other side.
Lineage, legacy, leverage. Genealogy is the lane. Community is the destination. But care, that's how we get there. At TBAT Task Force, we don't just research history. We reclaim what was stolen. For Black American descendants, proving who you are is the first step toward reparative justice and recognition.
Get 4 hours of expert research, a verified certificate, and a care-based session to guide your next steps. A $155 contribution doesn't just fund your search, it fuels 5 community positions. It's a cycle of growth.
Ready to claim your history? Start your journey or book a free care call today. Your legacy is waiting.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And this is Tell It All Tuesday. So the next piece of news that I want to get into, I'm not going to play the whole video, but some of it, is where Amazon may be shutting down. Now this is in New York. Now, I don't know if you guys remember a few years back with Representative Cortez. She kind of drove them away. The Amazon warehouse drove away thousands of jobs from New York City. So then there's a delivery service for Amazon that has grown, that has been helpful to the city. But they're, by policy, trying to shut that down now. So let's check this out.
In New York City, and they're going to close their warehouses once this new law passes.
On Thursday. The legislation called the Delivery Protection Act, introduced by Council member Tiffany Caban, would force companies like Amazon to directly employ all of their drivers instead of using contractors. It would also require the smaller companies Amazon uses to get packages to their final destination called delivery.
Because see, right now with people, let's just call it what it is. It's the gig economy, right? People can gig and be 1099, right? And actually lower their taxable income, because if they're independent, they can actually pay less in taxes because they are considered a business. They want to take away that, and they want to put the tax burden on Amazon. So Amazon's paying more in taxes, not only just to do business there, but also taxing those employees so they get that money directly. Socialism does not work for people who need jobs. Socialism is only good for people that have money, or the people that are in government that can be a burden to the actual citizens.
Delivery service partners, or DSPs, to be licensed with the city.
This is big news because it's going to force Amazon to do things in a way that doesn't work with its business model, eliminating thousands of jobs.
Meanwhile, some DSP owners are pushing back against the bill.
What this bill does for me is actually closes and shut down my business. It takes the 150 people that work for me and puts them out of work.
That's terrible.
This actually impacts everyone's life by passing this bill. While well-intended, the outcome is not good for the city.
It's going to be a disaster.
Employees. It's not good for the customers at the end of the day either, because it's going to slow down their packages or potentially raise the cost of getting their packages.
Right.
The city council says that, Amazon would be essentially forced to hire the employees that are going to lose their jobs as a result of the DSPs going away, but there is no level of certainty that they will be rehired. And so what happens first and foremost is a direct impact of the people that we've hired so far losing their job entirely, and then being at the mercy of being possibly maybe rehired.
Amazon submitting written testimony for the hearing. The online retail giant saying in part the legislation would be threatening the small businesses that deliver to customers, putting the jobs of their more than 5,000 employees at risk, and forcing us to consider relocating delivery operations outside of the city. This would likely mean slower and more expensive delivery, deteriorating the experience for millions of customers in New York City. Amazon also inviting city council members to visit the delivery stations to see firsthand what it's like before they vote on the bill. The bill does have majority support within the city council, and the next step is for the city council speaker.
Okay, if this thing has support, what that means is that it's probably going to pass, because how do we expect a city run by a bunch of socialists with a communist mayor not to take the side of the people against Amazon? But who are the people who are going to lose their jobs?
News 12's Shakti Dennis spoke to the people making sure your packages get to you on time.
These are the guys that are going to lose their jobs.
Good morning. You might have seen Tommy Gorman delivering your packages around Brooklyn.
Ladies, how we doing?
He's one of more than 100 riders rolling out of the Red Hook Amazon delivery station twice a day like clockwork.
Drive safe, have a great day.
On a 4-wheel electric, they deliver thousands of packages across Red Hook and the downtown Brooklyn area.
It's nice to be outside. I mean, the winter was a little cold, but I'm Irish.
These guys do a fantastic job. Packages get delivered in record time. I never miss my deliveries. They're better than UPS. They're way better than FedEx. And these are the people who are going to lose their jobs. Amazon isn't going to be able to hire them all. And look at this. According to the New York Post, if this passes, Amazon will probably relocate 10 of its distribution centers to areas just outside the border in New Jersey, Long Island, and in Westchester.
Sweating the shade, so we're doing all right.
Amazon started testing e-cargo bikes in Manhattan a few years ago and expanded to Brooklyn. Now they're growing their fleet even more.
Obviously, where I'm parked now, you wouldn't be able to park if you had a van. It makes it that much easier.
Juan Martinez is one of the local business owners who partners with Amazon to hire and train drivers and handle deliveries.
I went from 0 employees, just starting with myself, and today I have 120 employees.
He says e-bikes are a better fit for some of Brooklyn's narrow streets.
These things can move about the city in a very efficient way. They are not hindering traffic.
That's because they can ride on bike lanes, drawing pushback from some cyclists.
Look,
transportation advocates say they're happy.
Look, I ride a bike in New York City. Do these things get in the way in the bike lane? Yeah, but they contribute to zero traffic congestion. Everybody gets their packages. Your truck with that thing on it that you ordered isn't stuck in the middle of Midtown somewhere, unable to get anywhere. They've got the best delivery model in the city, and the city wants to shut it down?
To see efforts to limit delivery trucks.
When you are riding a bike on New York City streets, one of the things that's most likely to kill you is a truck.
But as more e-cargo bikes hit the roads, they're urging the city to adapt.
We need to ensure that we have much wider bike lanes. We also need more protected bike lanes and more bike boulevards just to ensure that everyone has the space and ability to get around safely on a bike.
But in the meantime, keep an eye out for Tommy.
I'll meet you guys down at the other end there, okay?
In downtown Brooklyn, Shakti Dennis, News 12 Brooklyn.
The amount of people that are going to have no job once this thing passes is unbelievable. And we're doing this to protect delivery jobs. It's going to eliminate them altogether. But ask yourself another question. Who would be in favor of such a thing?
The introduction of a bill called the Delivery Protection Act, the New York City Council. We're hearing the support of the politicians who are introducing it for us. And we are workers showing that we stand together with each other in order to make this happen.
It needs to hold Amazon accountable, trying to say that we're not one of their workers.
They like to push it on the third-party company, which is the DSP.
But that's to cover that creates jobs.
Taking accountability for job security, safety, and a number of others.
I came today because it's important to show solidarity to our drivers. Their wins are our wins. So when they win, we win. It's important to be there for each other. They're greedy. They have all the money.
The only people that are going to win are the union leaders. The people, again, the people with money. Like he said, the people with money, they win. You're not going to win with this policy over.
That they could ever want. They're pinching us for pennies. They don't want to be responsible. So this is really important that we hold them accountable.
Okay, I get it. Amazon makes a lot of money. Jeff Bezos is worth billions of dollars. But that's not what's on the table. What's on the table here is there's a specific way that Amazon delivers packages in New York City. And if you're going to ban the way that they do their job here, this law, instead of forcing Amazon to do things the way the activists say they're supposed to, is going to change the way Amazon does things in a way they don't expect. Carriers warn that on-time performance will suffer. According to the draft of the study, customers may wait longer to get their orders, and it will become harder to meet tight delivery windows. Here's the other thing. The legislation is going to require that every single company that works for Amazon, so this doesn't just affect Amazon, every company is going to have to be licensed. And they're not going to be able to have contractors. They're going to have employees. So it doesn't just apply to Amazon. It applies to the companies. Amazon says they're committed to creating good jobs, supporting thousands of employers and local businesses, and providing fast, affordable delivery. Yeah, this is the anti of affordability, which is what the mayor ran on. And I can guarantee you that as a Democratic socialist, he's going to do what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did. Remember when she blocked Amazon from building their headquarters here and was so proud of it? same thing is going to happen. But the politicians who are in favor of this and want to force it through and make Amazon do what they want, they've got their own propaganda campaign telling you how horrible Amazon is. Watch this.
On your break?
Yeah, I'm chilling.
Ugh, living the good life. I mean, you got the Amazon gig, delivering smiles.
I don't know who's telling you that we're delivering smiles.
I don't know, you see all these ads, but how great it is to work under Amazon.
Oh, the ads. Okay. So you mean the ads that they pay people like $1,000 a pop to do?
Wait, what are you talking about?
They're like bribing people. We got like an email a few weeks ago telling us if you want to enroll in the sweepstakes to get paid, like talk about how much you love this company.
Okay, it's a sweepstakes.
You know?
Not everybody
right,
gets
I don't have
the
any money for you, but you want to give me the real deal?
No, the vans are falling apart. I've seen a van door literally fall off the side door. I've had where the transmission breaks down and it won't accelerate past 25 miles an hour. We have
okay, what's the speed limit in New York City? 20 miles an hour. But that's why they're switching to the e-bikes anyways. And these jobs, they're going to cease to exist at all once this law passes.
Manager, and they will have to let us know you got to hurry up.
So you're telling me that you're wearing the Amazon shirt, you're delivering the Amazon packages, you're riding around in these vans that are falling apart. You got Big Brother surveilling you through artificial intelligence. That's wild.
So, matter of fact, what do we do about it?
You know what? I think we should pass the Delivery Protection Act.
Oh, yeah?
It's a bill that would require Amazon to finally directly employ their drivers, which means taking responsibility for the pollution, the traffic, the vehicle crashes, the falling apart van.
What do you mean the pollution? They've got the e-bikes. They're rolling out the e-carriers all over the place. There are no more vans. They're getting rid of that stuff here. They're decreasing traffic congestion. They're employing thousands of people. How is this a bad thing? I'll tell you why it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing because you have a profitable company. You have people making hundreds of millions and billions of dollars at the top of this company, and that makes the radicals, the communists running New York City very angry because everybody here has been conditioned to think that the only way they're going to get ahead is if they vote for other people's money. And you have to understand, when you watch stuff like this, it's an offshoot of this radical thinking, these programs, these laws that want to force businesses to do things their way or the highway, but the businesses say they're going to leave.
Sure that everybody in the system is safer and healthier, whether you are the guy delivering the smiles or the consumer on the other end just wanting to be able to.
And when they leave, who are you going to tax? Yeah. Who's next? But who supported Mamdani to get in office? Well, let's see.
These demonstrators marched the length of just over a mile, but they say they want to spread a message far and wide.
Is Tennessee in the house?
They came by the busload from across the country.
I came in from Norfolk, Virginia. The pebble was dropped in Washington, D.C.
She's a Washingtonian who was at the first March on Washington exactly 62 years ago. At that event back then, New Yorkers showed up in droves. Now, others joined New Yorkers here for what's called the March on Wall Street.
Is the dream alive?
Al Sharpton joined Martin Luther King III in leading thousands from the Federal Center at Foley Square past the Stock Exchange and the Bull statue. Then, leaders from labor, civil rights, clergy, legal, and other organizations took the stage to state clearly why they'd come.
Financial freedom helps make all of the other freedoms more than just a dream.
They said they need corporations to commit to DEI policies. It was a theme repeated from the stage and by the numbers of marchers.
1,000 people decided, oh yeah, there's already going to be enough people, I don't need to go, then there'd be a lot less people and there'd be a lot less of an impact.
But the voice of one marcher in particular stood out. Sharpton introduced the Democratic Party nominee after pointing out that the other mayoral candidates did not attend.
I just took attendance. When I was going to school in Brownsville, they took attendance every day. Whether it helped somebody or not, I know when I showed up, they marked present.
Zohran Mamdani said that the invitation of Sharpton to join the King family was meaningful.
His father's focus on income inequality and the explanation of how we cannot have racial justice without economic justice, it is an honor to be on that stage with him.
Mayor Eric Adams was at the funeral of his friend, the activist Ida Hastic, at the time of the march. His office pointing out that he has a strong relationship with Reverend Sharpton and has been a vocal supporter of DEI initiatives. Reporting from...
But what have those initiatives done to New York? They've all but destroyed New York. I'm like, what? What is it going to take to let you realize you cannot live off of the backs of other people and be successful? And I mean, I'm talking about corporations as well, right? Like I said, there are corporations, they are addicted to what I consider slave wages. We talked about it yesterday. If somebody is here illegally and you can pay them $10 under the table as opposed to paying somebody $20 who's an American, you're going to pay the $10. And you're going to do it you're doing it ad nauseum because there's no consequences. Okay? Yeah, there needs to be consequences for people that are hired here illegally. There needs to be consequences for people here illegally. Once they're removed, the numbers change. And people can actually be hired and do a good job. Now, what New York is considering with Amazon is like, okay, you're just going to force people to be hired. Okay, you're going to force this company to be a better. If they are a horrible company, guess what's going to happen? People are not going to use their services and they will live and die on their own. That's what capitalism is about. If people don't like your services, you will not have the customers, they will not deal with you, and you will lose revenue. But you cannot force companies to move the way you want to through policy. And when you do that and they move just right over your border into another city, that city is going to get the taxable income that you're no longer going to get. So you really haven't thought this through. And you're going to tax people more to have their things delivered for free. Anyways, so there's another video that I want to play. And this is about Mayor Mamdani. This man has not even been in office 6 months. We're just into the second quarter. It's just April 14th. We are 14 days into the second quarter. You're not going to know these numbers, right, until July, because that's, quarters are behind. Like we won't know about first quarter pretty much until probably like the end of April, May, like what first quarter, what actually his policies that he's put in place, what effect they're having on the city yet. But let's check this out.
Have a talk. We have to talk, a heart to heart. I'll call it a meeting. How can you allow Conrad Zoran Mamdani to punk you out of celebrating this country's 250th birthday in Times Square? Meanwhile, his friends, you know who I'm talking about, can sit there and pray several times out of the day. How is that possible? That is so biased. We have got to stop letting these anti-American communists come into our country and wage war against the American way of life.
That your wonderful communist mayor, Zoran Mamdani, signed an emergency order that prevents people from coming down to Times Square and celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States.
Times Square, a ball drop is planned to celebrate America's 250th birthday. But thanks to Mayor Mamdani's emergency order denying permits during the World Cup, the public isn't invited to attend.
Say what? So our famous communists won't allow people to come up and see and celebrate 250th years for the U.S. He needs to go.
Is this America? Is this really New York? Where we at?
I think that's really sad.
Yeah, I think that's very silly. Oh. Gee, you'd imagine there should be a...
New York City, have you gotten it yet? How much more do you need to see? This guy needs to be recalled immediately. Go ahead and just put this into perspective in case it's not clear already. So Muslims are being permitted to pray in Times Square, right? Multiple times a day. But Americans are not allowed to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. What are we even doing here? For the people who love New York City, for the people who love New York, do yourself a favor and get this guy out of office.
What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you guys pulling up today. Shout out to all my ARP family members, man. New York City is turning into a cesspool right before our very eyes. And finally, folks are starting to wake up, but it could be too little too late. Now, on Friday, we talked about the whites only tax that they want to implement in New York City, right? We talked about that during the live stream. If you did not watch it, go and check it out. The video's up right now. It's doing well. But let me lay this out for you. Not only is Mamdani not delivering on what he promised during his campaign, which, again, we told you what would happen if this dude was to win. And the numbers are reflecting that this dude is not who he said he was, right? But now he's crossed into something different. We're talking about blocking New Yorkers from celebrating America's 250th birthday in Times Square on July 4th. Let that sit with you for a second. A celebration of this country's founding stopped, but they allow protesters and agitators and all types of chaos happening on the streets. That gets the green light. And New Yorkers, they're not having it. They're upset, and they should be. They're pushing back, and they should. They're demanding accountability, and they should. And some are even calling for removal, and they should. This dude's been in office maybe 100 days, maybe a little less than that. And this is the direction that they're taking New York City. Meanwhile, there's footage coming out of Times Square. You got flags and demonstrations and political messaging all over the place. You got communist folks, Hezbollah flags, Palestine folks. I mean, it's a mess out there. But you stop at celebrating our nation. Are Americans not allowed to celebrate America anymore? Is that what you're saying, Zoran? Is that what you're saying? Now, I want to frame this the right way because scripture already warned us about moments like this, right? In Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20, it says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who puts darkness for light and light for darkness. In other words, when a society starts flipping what's right and wrong, confusion isn't far behind, and that's what they're experiencing in New York City. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep going.
As we all know, the United States turns 250 years old. In just a couple of years, we will catch up to the age of Nancy Pelosi. Not quite yet, but eventually we will catch up as a nation. When a country turns 250 years old, clearly, obviously, there is a need for celebration, especially celebration of a country as great as the United States of America. And so in all corners of the country, various events are being planned to celebrate a historic and monumental feat of a kind. Alongside a live broadcast and celebration, while there will be no public event at the Times Square Plaza. What? We're going to have a big ball drop in the middle of Times Square just like we do for New Year's Eve, and no one's going to be there? The statement went on to say, we're working through the standard coordination with city partners and look forward to sharing additional details soon. What additional details need to be shared? If cool, the ball will drop, and I guess there will be a camera on the ball dropping, but if nobody's there to celebrate it, what's the point? They basically said there's not going to be no attendees, to which I was like, well, I'm of two minds of this. One, having gone and seen the Christmas tree lighting at Rockefeller Center, I don't know why anybody would stand out there in the crowd having to go to the bathroom for that amount of time. Doesn't make sense to me what anyone would do that. But also, what is the point? If nobody's going to be there, why are you even having this event? And can you even call it an event if nobody is there to participate in said event? It's like decorating your entire house for a big party and then not inviting anybody.
Here in Times Square.
Yeah, I want to say this real quick. This is why we have to stop foreign-born people from getting in positions of leadership in our nation. they more times than not care more about the country that they came from than the nation that they're in. They don't have any real connection to this country, the good, the bad, the indifferent of our nation. They don't have any connection there. Their lineage doesn't go back 2, 3, 4, 5 generations. It's really frustrating that we have foreign-born people in our government, and they're in every aspect. They're in like 42 states. A few of them are mayors. A multitude of them are representatives, in our Congress. Right now, we have a few of them that are lieutenant governors, and they hold various seats all around the country. And they're implementing laws that are anti-America, anti our Constitution. They run away from a nation and then try to make said country, our country, similar to the one that they ran away from. Something has got to give. Something needs to be passed to stop this. If you are not born and raised in this nation, you shouldn't be able to hold a position in any leadership role in our nation. Not city council, not school board, not state delegate, not state representative or senator, not mayor, governor, nothing. Definitely not the House of Representatives, definitely not the Senate, and definitely not president. Something has got to give, man.
Where a ball drop is planned to celebrate America.
Getting out and voting on. Now I get it. The
seems crazy for me to have on the birthday hat at your birthday party. Anniversary of the country, July 4th.
This is what I want to get
better than this guy. Seriously. Anybody. And that's being showcased on a daily basis. I mean, they literally are trying to pass a law that will tax white Americans more than everybody else in the city. Let's just call that what it is. That's not, sometimes it is like, oh, that's reverse racism. No, that's just racism. Let's just call it what it is. That is just discrimination. It ain't reverse nothing. It's just racism. It's just discrimination. Outrageous. But I want you to listen to what Al Sharpton had to say about this particular situation.
They're going to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country July 4th. But that's not our celebration. We were slaves then. And they celebrate signing the Declaration of Independence 1776. We were not even emancipated until 1863. So I don't know what everybody getting ready for a celebration. That it seems crazy.
And this is the same man who supported putting Mamdani in office. So of course he's going to be like, no. Okay. All right, Al. Mr. Sharpton, you put your line in the sand, but I wanted to bring this up. So I said, recently Al Sharpton made comments regarding the 250th celebration of the United States. Can you give me a timeline from 1776 to 1863 and highlight the contributions made by Black Americans in spite of prejudice, discriminations, and racism? Okay. So from 1775 to 1783, this is during the American Revolutionary War, thousands of Black men, estimates 5,000 to 8,000, free and enslaved, served in the Continental Army, Navy, and state militias, often in integrated units, despite George Washington's initial 1775 ban on Black enlistment, later reversed due to manpower needs. They needed humans to fight. They fought at major battles, including Bunker Hill, 1775, Peter Salem, Salem-Poor, Trenton and Princeton, 1776 and 1777, Saratoga, 1777, and Yorktown, 1781. Notable figures, Prince Whipple and Oliver Cromwell, crossed the Delaware with Washington in 1776. James Amistad, enslaved, spied for the Marquis de Lafayette, providing critical intelligence at Yorktown. Some earned freedom through service. The 1st Rhode Island Regiment of 1778 was a predominantly Black unit whose soldiers were emancipated upon enlistment. Black loyalists, roughly 15,000 to 20,000, also fought for the British after promises of freedom. Lord Dunmore's proclamation of 1775, many later resettled in Canada or Sierra Leone. Now, from 1780 to 1790s, early Republic, 1787 and 1794, free Black leaders founded mutual aid societies and institutions amid post-war restrictions. Richard Allen and Absalom Jones established the Free African Society in 1787 and Mother Bethel AME Church in 1794 in Philadelphia, the first independent Black denomination providing community support, education, and anti-slavery advocacy despite segregation in white churches. Prince Hall founded African Lodge number 459 in 1787, the first Black Masonic Lodge. 1791, Benjamin Benneker, a free Black mathematician and astronomer, published his first almanac, widely circulated, and assisted in surveying the site for the new national capital, Washington, D.C. He wrote a famous anti-slavery letter to Thomas Jefferson challenging racial stereotypes. This goes on and on up until now. But I wanted to point out that, yes, we definitely need to celebrate 250 years. Has it been great? Has it been glorious? Absolutely not. But are we a part of the roots of this country if we are the descendants of said people that have pulled up here? Absolutely yes. This is my home. And how dare you put in a policy saying that I can't go anywhere? And I know I don't live in New York, but I'm just saying, what if I wanted to go to New York to celebrate 250 years? I know some people in New York City. What if I wanted to go there to celebrate this? And you're saying we can't celebrate? Have you lost your mind? And then Al Sharpton said, well, it's not our birthday party. Shut up, Al. Shut up. Shut up. You supported putting this person in office. Stop it. Just disgusting. How dare you? There were still abolitionists that helped emancipate the slaves. That, in my opinion, they don't get enough credit either, because they were there too. You know, there are some of these so-called leaders, they don't speak for all of Black America. And that's why I wanted to set up the videos the way I did. To say this, if you're listening, Reverend Sharpton, you don't speak for all of us. You never have. You've been nothing but a placeholder to destroy Black Americans. You've done nothing to help us. Every time you show up and you open your mouth, it is death and destruction. And you look like it. You are starting to look like everything that you have professed for decades. And the only reason you live and stand is because you serve evil. And that's it. That is who you serve. You don't care about Black Americans, and that's okay. We get it. We're kind of used to it. So with that, that is our Tell It All Tuesday for this broadcast. We'll be back tomorrow with Women in Wellness Wednesday, and it will be open mic. So remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.